Hi guys, so the response to Bob Vylan's comments at Glastonbury has been unhinged. So we've had Labour and Conservative MPs having a meltdown. We've had the United States government impose a travel ban on Bob Vylan, meaning he won't get a visa, which is somewhat ironic because they were recently criticising Europe and the UK for not upholding free speech. Make of that as you wish. And then, of course, we had people on the far right comparing throwing Bob Vylan in jail to, without due process, of course, to Lucy Nelson Mandela Connolly. Now, instead of actually speculating, let's hear what an expert had to say. And Jonathan Hall is a KC, and this is what he had to say.
With that sort of offence, you've got to prove whether he knew someone in the audience was Jewish and that they might...
Oh, okay, but the chant was not about Jewish people. It was about the IDF. Now, I've mentioned this before. A majority of people in the IDF is Jewish, obviously, but it's not 100%. About 10%, I believe, is made up of Muslims, Christians, atheists, and other religions. So if the IDF is not 100% Jewish, then why are you mentioning Jews here? Because the chant was directed at the IDF, not Jewish people.
Might be harassed by him saying that. Now, if he knew that there was a bunch of Jews in the audience and he thought, well, I'm going to demonstrate my hostility towards them, and it would be terrifying, I think, to be one of a small number of Jews in an audience facing that sort of mass chanting, then that could amount to an offence. And obviously, calling for the death of any group of human beings is an extraordinary thing to do, an extraordinary thing to happen at a festival. But as I say, in order to prove it's a crime, you've got to show a little bit more. Either that he intended generally that the Brits would rise up against the Jews, or that people in the audience who might be Jewish would therefore be harassed. And I think that's going to be the challenge for the police.
I'm hearing scepticism, Jonathan. I'm hearing someone say, I'm not at all sure that this is likely to cross the evidential bar. Is that right?
That is right. And I think we do have to remember, I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing that happened, but I haven't got to remember it was a relatively short episode during a band performance. And I think that Vylan and those people who then carried out the chants, it's probably going to be on their consciences rather than a matter for the criminal law.
But social media has convicted him. Have you not been following current events, Jonathan? Okay, look, it doesn't seem to be a case. There's no real case here. And this is a KC talking. This is not me talking. This is an expert talking. As I said before, the chant was directed at the IDF. Like, a number of Jewish people have already come out and said, look, I didn't feel threatened by this because I'm not a member of the IDF. The only people who may feel uncomfortable about, or who should feel uncomfortable about these comments are members of the IDF. I've compared it to, if somebody was chanting such a threat or words directed at the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, would you say it was Islamophobic? Because, well, a majority, if not 100%, of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard are Muslim. The comparison is a bit weak, of course, but, some people will say, well, why not compare it to Hamas? But Hamas is a terrorist organization prescribed by the United Kingdom. So it's not a good comparison there. This is going to rumble on for a few days, but I think it's going to end in a pretty quiet way, because while social media is having a meltdown over this and a lot of politicians are trying to jump on a bandwagon, especially people like Suella Braverman and others, it will come to nothing because, as the expert says here, there isn't really a case. So I think it will rumble on for a few days. A few politicians will try and milk it a little bit more, and then by this time next week we won't even remember what was said. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.